Okay, so it's Cat Stanley Space Demon coming at you again. And a few weeks back, surviving members of the Canadian hard prog rock trio Rush, Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson, announced that they would be reconvening to embark on the 50-something tour in 2026, enlisting the talents of drummer Annika Niels or Nilles from Germany to fill in the slot by late great drummer Neil Peart. And this announcement was made with a cutesy little video Geddy and Alex produced for the Rush website. And this announcement was met with overwhelmingly positive response from the Rush fan base. I'm sure there's a few minority fans out there who feel that this tour is akin to sacrilege, bringing in a new drummer to fill the shoes, the unfillable shoes of the great Neil Peart. But I think they are in the minority, and I myself, I don't begrudge Ged and Alex for wanting to hit the road. I mean, it's what they do. They're musicians. I don't expect them to just wither away and croak because they lost their drummer. As great as Neil Peart was, I think they should be allowed to go out. Why shouldn't they be allowed to go out and share all this great music they helped to create and continue the legacy that they had started? And I know you can rest assured, as they have said, they're going to do justice to Neil Peart's legacy with a great tribute to Neil during their set. But what has stuck in the craw of some of the Rush fan base as far as ticket prices go for this upcoming tour? Some fans feel that the ticket prices are exorbitant, and let's take a look at some of the prices for this tour. I did a little Google search, and it's kind of funny. It says ticket prices for Rush 50-something tour vary, but generally starting in the low to mid 300s for standard seats and can range higher for better locations or VIP packages. And it gives some examples down here. Los Angeles starts at $322. Texas starts at $359, and then it says, this kind of made me chuckle, it says lower bowl non-VIP seats range from $322 to $388 with quote-unquote nosebleed or basic seating starting around $214. Now, full disclosure, these prices sound high to me, but I haven't attended concerts in years. I just don't go. I'm getting a little older. I got to see all my fave bands, including Rush, back in the day, and I'm not in a hurry to go out see bands at shows. I'm content listening to records and CDs on my kick-ass home stereo. But they sound a little high to me, and I think a lot of the fans out there feel that the prices are a bit high. When you think about the band, it's basically two guys with a hired gun. I don't know how much they plan on paying her. I know they said that they're going to be adding a keyboardist, and maybe there's going to be adding more players to the ensemble to fill out the sound, to maybe lessen the need for pre-recorded elements. Obviously, they're probably going to have a huge, big light show, so we don't know how much that's going to cost. That being said, that kind of a stage presentation has been status quo in arena rock shows for years, so it's really nothing new. Even all things considered, as they say on NPR, still sounds a bit high to me. And another thing is, I was on a Reddit thread, and some Rush fan base, because when they originally announced this tour, it was a limited number of dates, and they later on expanded the tour itinerary, I think based on initial sales. And some of the Rush fans who went into this thing thinking that Rush wasn't going to be making a stop in their hometown went out and purchased tickets for out-of-market shows where they're going to end up having to travel, in some cases, long distances and several hours to see Rush, only to come to find out that Rush will be playing in their hometown now as a part of the expanded itinerary. Some of the Rush fans are disgruntled about that, but in defense of Rush, I can't blame them for wanting to maybe dip their toes with the initial limited itinerary and trying to find out what kind of demand there would be for the tickets. And obviously, probably once they realized there was going to be a big demand for these shows, they decided to announce the expanded tour itinerary. But to try to figure out and get to the bottom of these exorbitant ticket prices, who it is that we should blame, if you want to blame somebody, who's responsible for the price of the tickets? Is it just the guys in the band being greedy, or do they have, is there a lot of overhead that goes into these tours that they need to cover? Is it just the reality of modern touring and productions and stage presentations that you gotta have? I'm sorry, I'm having trouble speaking. Sometimes my mind gets ahead of my mouth, or my mouth gets ahead of my mind, and I what do you call it? I stumble, I stammer, I mumble. Please bear with me, but who's to blame for these exorbitant ticket prices? I got a clip here I want to play for you, which is kind of a window into possibly who is the one responsible, or, the perpetrators responsible for these exorbitant ticket prices. I'm going to play for you Ace Frehley's buddy, Eddie Trunk, Sirius Satellite XM Radio, Disc Jerky. Eddie Trunk has an interesting thing to say about concert ticket prices and who is responsible. Check it out, and afterwards we'll have a little chat.
The concert ticket revenues, in terms of if I buy a $100 ticket to see an arena band, how much goes into the artist's pocket? And the main reason I'm saying this or asking about it is I think a lot of us are kind of under the misconception that these bands that maybe play a hockey arena to 10,000 people are making way more money than they actually are, with the papering and all that. So I wonder if, or maybe if you have like an industry friend who can come and explain that's kind of how much are the bands actually making, and how many bands are making those millions and millions that we assume they are.
I actually have that friend, and he was on the show last week. So listen on the app if you missed it, but I had a concert promoter on last week who's an old friend of mine named Danny Zalisco, who's been promoting concerts for 40 years, still does. And he released a book, and that was the reason for him coming on. I think it was last Thursday's show. Now, I ran out of time to get into specifics like that, but he would be a guy who is a promoter who could ask on that, because he's produced and promoted shows at every level, from stadiums to clubs. And, the one thing he says in his book that I brought up during that interview last week is when you and fans wonder about the price of a concert ticket, which we all know some of them have gotten ridiculously priced and overpriced, which probably is going to have to get in check a little bit when shows come back. But he says in his book, let's cut to it right now and say something and make this abundantly clear. Ticket prices are always dictated by the artist. So although the artist likes to, according to Danny's book, not according to Danny's book. Danny's book said that prices are 100% dictated by the artist. But we all know to deflect that, a lot of times artists will make it like, well, it's the promoter, or no. They may not directly say, I want that ticket to be $250, but because of the money they're demanding as a guarantee, the only way to make the show happen is to charge the tiered ticketing. So if their guarantee is so high, that's going to only get reflected to you. And if they're carrying a ton of production and staff and a huge stage show, well, that's going to be trickled down to you as well. So that's what he meant by saying the prices. And then we all know there's these ridiculous fees and all that, but the price comes down to the fact of how much that artist wants to perform and what they're commanding to do a date.
Okay, so there you have it. Disc Jerky Eddie Trunk has an industry insider acquaintance, and he's providing a bit of a window into who is to blame for the exorbitant ticket prices. And according to Eddie Trunk and his industry insider, it is the artist who sets the ticket prices. So if you're going to get pissed off at anybody for the expensiveness of the Rush 50-something tour tickets, I guess you gotta blame the guys in the band, because, you know, there's guys out there. I'm not a huge fan, but Kid Rock is a Michigan boy, and I know he's done his best to keep his ticket prices down, and he's had success at doing that. So, these artists do have a lot of sway when it comes to setting these prices, and so maybe this whole tour isn't quite simply the labor of love that Alex Lifeson and Geddy Lee would have you believe. Not that it isn't a labor of love, but maybe there's more of a financial incentive for them to be hitting the road at this juncture, as Ace Frehley would say. Bit more than a labor of love. I guess, the loveliness of it might be exacerbated by the lure of filthy lucre, as Neil Peart may have referred to it as in his so articulate manner. God, we miss that cat. Miss Ace Frehley. Miss Neil. But for those of you Rush fans on a budget who are feeling a bit priced out of the 50-something Rush arena tour, there is a really good Rush tribute band called the Rush Experience, which will be coming to Detroit Rock City on January 10th, playing a small club. In order to see a really good Rush tribute band in a small club, District 142 in Wyandotte, Michigan, we call it Downriver, you can see a really good Rush tribute band in a small club for anywhere between $31.39 and $41.69, and that price includes fees, so you might want to think about that if you're priced out of the Rush show. And I was watching the Rush Experience, their little hype video they got, and they sound pretty good. It's kind of weird though, the lead singer is this big bald dude with a goatee, and it's kind of weird to hear this high-pitched Geddy Lee type of voice coming out of this dude. Kind of funny, but he sounds really good. They sound pretty good, so that's something to consider as an alternative to the outrageous box office, considerations of the Rush 50-something Experience tour. Are Geddy and Alex being a couple of greedy hosers with the exorbitant ticket prices, or you don't mind paying? It's well worth it to see these guys play those classic Rush tunes that we've all come to love. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hope you dug the video, and we'll see you next time!
Stanley the One-Eared Monster. Stanley the One-Eared Monster.
Who's here?